Advanced price action. In previous sections, when talking about cyclicity, I referred to price action which you would look to see at the end of a phase 2 before you move into a phase 1. So these can be clear indications when used in a strategy as part of a recipe to take advantage of the price moves. These can help you take advantage of those moves and work out your entry and your exit criteria. In this case, we are going to be talking about a ring high or a ring low formation. So we'll cover ring low formations first. Now, you are not paying attention to the open and the close of the bar as referenced when I talked about OHLC bars. You're still looking at the OHLC bar, but you are only paying attention to the high and to the low. Initially, you are looking at a potential ring low, which consists of bar number 1 and bar number 2. The bars themselves, just to clarify, can be any shape and any color. The color is not relevant, whether it's a red or a green bar doesn't matter. What you are paying attention to is to the high and the low of the bar. So a potential ring low consists of bar number 1 and bar number 2. Bar number 2 needs to have a lower high. So the high of bar number 2 is lower than the high of bar number 1, and a lower low, where the low is also lower than the low of bar number 1. You can see here that you have a blue dotted line and a red dotted line above the high and one below the low of bar number 2. This would signify where you could potentially place an entry and a stop loss as part of an order that you would send to the broker, which is what we call a pending order, before the order triggers and goes live. So bar number 3, therefore, would be the trigger bar. So a triggered ring low formation is when the high of bar number 3 moves through and past the high of bar number 2. In this case, that would trigger the trade, and in this case bar number 3 is being shown here as a higher high than bar number 1. However, bar number 3 is not required to have a higher high than bar number 1. The only requirement is that the high of bar number 3 moves past the high of bar number 2 to trigger the trade. You would look for the potential ring low to be at the end of a phase 2 as depicted here. So 180 profit booster specifically uses ring high and ring low. So the ring low you would look at to be at the end of a phase 2, place an entry above, stop loss below, and then trade into as early as possible within the phase 1. When you attend the program, you will be having a look through these price charts here to pick out ring low potentials, and 7 of those have triggered. The answers are here. You can study them for your own purposes at home. Looking at a ring high formation, so this would be assuming a downtrend. Ring low, as previously, was for an uptrend. Ring high, therefore, is for a downtrend, to look to capture the momentum moving into a phase 1. In a downward market, you would be selling. So bar number 1 and bar number 2 again need to be well, they can be any color. You're not looking at the open and the close, you're just paying attention to the high and the low. So bar number 2, therefore, in this case, needs to have a higher high than bar number 1 and a higher low than bar number 1, with an entry now below the low of bar number 2 and a stop loss above the high. Bar number 3 would have a low that moved lower than the low of bar number 2, but just to reiterate, the low of bar number 3 is not required necessarily to be lower than the low of bar number 2. This is price action that would be used in a downtrend so that you can take advantage of the downward move. When you're in class, you'll be running through this program here. There are 14 potential ring highs, so 14 sets of bar number 1 and bar number 2. 10 of those have triggered, where bar number 3 has moved lower with a lower low the low of bar number 2, and these are the answers. So assuming a downtrend, just to recover this point in the 180 profit booster, this uses a ring high in a downtrend, so bar number 1 and bar number 2 would be the end of a phase 2, moving into a phase 1 to take advantage of the downward market move. The other type of price action that we would look to cover, this specifically is to do with the income wave strategy. Income wave strategy uses high test bars and low test bars. So a low test bar literally equals the fact that price is very likely to move up. However, they are not guarantees that the market is going to go in the opposite direction. So on the left-hand side here, you can see where the price opened with the toggle on the left-hand side. The price opened, the market had more downward pressure. The price was rejected by the market, so the market rejected the downward push and pushed the price up to almost pretty much where it opened and slightly lower than where it opened, which is why the bar is red. You can see here that the red and the green bar look pretty similar. The color is actually irrelevant, but the open and the close must be in the top half of the bar, and this is the strongest type of low test bar, and at least one of the open or close needs to be in the top third. The very fact that the right hand side bar is green just means that the market closed slightly higher than where it opened. So if you imagine throwing a tennis ball against the floor, the downward pressure is rejected by the floor and sprung up the other way. So income wave will use low test bars and high test bars. So a low test bar is in the context assuming an uptrend. You would look for the low test bar to be at the end of a phase 2, bouncing into a phase 1, and you would place your entry above and your stop loss just below. Here are some examples. A high test bar, therefore, means the same thing. It means that price is very likely to move down. The color is actually irrelevant, but again, the criteria is the same, but in reverse. The open and the close must be in the bottom half of the bar, and at least one of the open or close needs to be in the bottom third. So these are depicting a rejection of an upward push by the market. The left-hand side bar is red because the price closed ever so slightly lower than where the price opened originally, and on the right-hand side the price closed ever so slightly higher than where it opened originally. So if you imagine throwing a tennis ball against the ceiling would reject the ball and force it into downward pressure. That's exactly what's happened here with the high test bar. So a high test bar in the context assuming a downtrend using the income wave is you would look for the high test bar to be at the end of a phase 2, moving down into a phase 1. Here are some examples.